Hi everyone, this is Cooking with Kurt. Today, my husband Donald and I are going to show you how to make a mango bravo cake.
This recipe was requested by a lot of you, so we hope you like this video.
The mango bravo is a frozen cake made of layers of cashew meringue wafers, chocolate mousse, whipped cream with mango cubes, and then drizzled with a chocolate shell. So it's a combination of 3 cakes we've made before: the sans rival cake with the cashew meringue wafers, the chocolate mousse cake, and the mango supreme. The links to those recipe videos are in the description section below.
And because there's multiple components of this cake, and because of the long baking time of the thick meringue wafers, we suggest making it across 2 separate days.
Exactly. So for the first day of this recipe, we're going to make the cashew meringue wafers, similar to the sans rival cake. Take 12 eggs and separate them into egg yolks and egg whites. Keep the 12 egg whites together in a big stainless steel or glass mixing bowl and let them come to room temperature. Separate 4 egg yolks from the other egg yolks in a small mixing bowl. Save the 8 remaining egg yolks to use for another dish. Then preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Take a sheet pan, add 1.5 cups of cashews, and spread them evenly in the pan. Toast these cashews in your preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes, or until they are golden brown. Let these cool completely to room temperature. When the cashews come to room temperature, turn down your oven to 225 degrees Fahrenheit, then take 2 sheet pans that can fit 3 8-inch circles between them. Line these sheet pans with parchment paper. Then in a food processor, add in the 1.5 cups of toasted cashews, 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, and 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Pulse this until they are mixed and the cashews are very fine. The cashews should look like a powder. Then take the bowl of 12 room temperature egg whites and beat the egg whites on low speed till they become frothy. Then increase the beaters to medium speed and add in 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. When the cream of tartar has fully dissolved, very slowly add in 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon at a time. Adding the sugar too quickly may deflate the egg whites. When all the sugar has been added, increase the beaters to high speed and continue beating till the sugar has completely dissolved, i.e., you can't feel any sugar grains anymore, and the meringue forms stiff, glossy peaks, like this. Then, 1/3 at a time, carefully add in the cashew powder mixture into the meringue, as well as 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and carefully fold it in, trying your best not to knock out any air from the meringue. Fold it in just until it is evenly mixed. Then we're going to take 3 8-inch cake rings, placing 2 of them on 1 sheet pan, about 1/2 inch apart, and the 3rd cake ring in the other sheet pan. Do not grease the sides or bottom surfaces. Divide the cashew meringue mixture evenly into the 3 prepared rings. With a small spoon, smoothen and flatten the top as much as possible. We're going to bake these in our preheated oven at 225 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 hours or until the meringue wafers are completely dry, crisp, and golden brown. The low temperature and long baking time is needed for these thick meringue circles to remove all the moisture from the egg whites and create a hollow and dry wafer without burning the outer layer of meringue.
After 8 hours of baking at 225 degrees Fahrenheit, just switch the oven off and leave them in the closed door oven overnight. We're going to leave them overnight so that they come to room temperature slowly. The next day, the room temperature meringue wafers should sound hollow if you gently knock on it with a spoon. Lift them off the parchment paper and carefully remove the wafers from the ring. If they are completely dry, it should come off the parchment paper quite easily. If necessary, insert a small knife between the wafer and the rings to separate them where they're stuck. Set these meringue wafers aside. Next, we're going to make the chocolate mousse. Take the 4 egg yolks we had set aside earlier and beat it for 1 to 2 minutes until it looks lemon yellow in color. Set this aside. Then set up a water bath by placing a heat-proof mixing bowl over a pot of simmering water over medium-low heat. Add in 8 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, which is about 1 1/3 cups of chocolate chips, and 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into cubes. Melt and mix them together until smooth. When they are evenly mixed, remove the bowl from the heat. While the chocolate is still hot, whisk in the beaten egg yolks, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and an optional 1 tablespoon of brandy. As usual, the brandy is optional. If you prefer not to add alcohol to your chocolate, just leave it out and there's no need to substitute it with anything. Set this aside to cool till it's lukewarm. Next, take a separate mixing bowl, add in 1 cup of very cold heavy cream, and 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Beat this together till you start to see stiff peaks, like this. When the chocolate has cooled to lukewarm, carefully fold in the whipped cream into the chocolate mixture, 1/3 at a time, till it's smooth and well combined. Set this aside.
Now we're going to do the first part of assembling the cake. Take a cake board and dab a little chocolate mousse in the middle of your cake board so the meringue doesn't slide around. Put one of the meringue wafers in the middle of the cake board, the flatter bottom side up. Then take an acetate sheet that's 30 inches long and 4 inches high and place it around the meringue wafer so it's the same circumference as the wafer. Hold the acetate sheet together using a freezer-resistant sticker or tape. Acetate sheets usually come with stickers, and we're just using the sticker that came with our roll of acetate sheet. Alternatively, you can take the 8-inch ring we used for baking and just slip it down the acetate sheet to hold it in place. Add the prepared chocolate mousse on top of the meringue wafer, and with a small spoon, make sure it goes all the way to the sides of the acetate sheet and level it so the top is as smooth and even as possible. Then take the second meringue wafer, slide it into the acetate sheet, placing it over the chocolate mousse with the flatter bottom side down. Gently tap it down to make sure it fits snugly over the chocolate mousse. We're going to let the chocolate mousse set, leaving this in the freezer for 1 hour.
While that's firming up in the freezer, we're going to start with prepping the mangoes. Take 2 fresh ripe mangoes and slice them into small squares using this crisscross method, and then scoop them out with the spoon. Try to include the mango flesh around the seeds as well. Keep the slices from the 2 mangoes in 2 separate bowls. 1 bowl is for the cake filling and 1 bowl is for the topping. Set this aside. If you're unable to get 2 fresh mangoes, you can substitute it with about 2 heaping cups of frozen mango cubes and let it thaw beforehand. Next, we're going to make the whipped cream frosting. Take a big mixing bowl, add in 8 ounces of cream cheese, and beat this with an electric mixer till it's slightly softened. Then add in 5 cups of very cold heavy cream and continue beating this together till it's slightly thickened. Then add in 1 cup of powdered sugar, adding it a little at a time to prevent it from flying everywhere, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1 teaspoon of orange zest. Continue whipping this mixture until the cream forms stiff peaks, like this. Leave this whipped cream frosting in the fridge until you're ready to use it.
Now we're ready to continue assembling our cake. Take the initial meringue and chocolate mousse layers out of the freezer. Take 1 bowl of chopped mangoes for the cake filling. Add in 2 cups of the whipped cream frosting and mix them together. Spread this mango and whipped cream mixture evenly over the second meringue layer, making sure it touches the sides of the acetate sheet and the top surface is as flat and even as possible. Take the third and final meringue wafer and place it on top of the mango cream layer, with the flatter bottom side up so that the top of the cake is as flat as possible. Gently tap it down so it fits snugly over the mango cream. Then evenly spread half a cup of whipped cream, forming a very thin layer of whipped cream frosting on top of the third meringue layer, flattening out the top with a small spoon. Doing your best to estimate by eye, use the back of your spoon to make dots around the top surface about 1 inch away from the edge of the cake as a design marker or landmark when decorating the cake. We're going to let this rest in the freezer for 20 minutes for the new cake layers to firm up a bit before proceeding. Now while the cake layers are firming up in the freezer, fit a piping bag with a large star tip and transfer some whipped cream into the piping bag so it's ready to use. Place the piping bag with the whipped cream and all of the whipped cream back in the fridge till you're ready to use it. When the cake layers have firmed up in the fridge for 20 minutes, take it out of the freezer, remove the sticker or the cake ring holding the acetate sheet, and carefully peel off the acetate sheet to reveal the different layers. Take some of the remaining whipped cream and apply it to the sides of the cake, smoothing it out with a bench scraper, creating a very thin layer of cream along the sides of the cake. It's okay if you're able to see some cashew meringue, mango, or chocolate mousse through the whipped cream. This is just to ensure that we have a smooth base surface onto which we can pipe the frosting later. Clean off any cream that fell off the cake board. Let this new layer of whipped cream firm up in the freezer for another 20 minutes. Then take the prepared piping bag. Starting at the base of the cake, pipe frosting vertically along the side of the cake, going from the bottom and going straight up, ending at the landmark dots we made earlier, like this. Repeat this until you've piped these vertical strips of frosting around the entire cake. Try to keep the strips of frosting as close to each other as possible so that it looks like a continuous wall with evenly spaced ridges. With a small spoon, gently flatten out the ends of those vertical strips about ½ inch from the landing to create an even surface to pipe out a shell border. At this point, we're returning the cake back into the freezer for another 20 minutes so the freshly piped whipped cream walls can firm up a bit. As before, rest the piping bag full of whipped cream in the fridge. I repeat, the cake goes in the freezer, but the unused whipped cream goes in the fridge. After the cake has rested in the freezer for 20 minutes, create a shell border on the flattened surface we made earlier, about ½ inch away from the edge of the cake. To make the shells as evenly sized and shaped as possible, just squeeze the bag to create the shell bulb, then decrease pressure while dragging to create the tail, like this. Continue doing this until you've completed the circular shell border. When we've finished piping the shell border, we're going to rest the cake in the freezer for another 20 minutes for the shell border to firm up. After 20 minutes, take the cake out and take the remaining half of mango slices and fill the center of the shell border with the mangoes. Once again, we're going to rest the cake in the freezer for 20 minutes for the mangoes to get cold. In the meantime, we're going to work on the final component and Donald's favorite part of the recipe, the chocolate shell.
The magic shell. This chocolate shell reminds me of the magic shell ice cream topper I loved as a kid. Like before, set up a double boiler, but this time we just need a small heat-proof bowl over a low, gentle simmer. Add in 2 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, which is about 1/3 cup of chocolate chips. Stir it around to melt the chocolate. Then add in 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. Stir them together until it is fully combined and smooth. Turn off the heat, but keep this mixture warm with the residual steam of the water bath until you're ready to drizzle it over the cake. It will solidify within seconds of touching the cold cake, just like with magic shell and ice cream.
He loves his magic shell. When you're ready to drizzle the cake, spoon this warm chocolate shell mixture into a disposable piping bag or a small Ziploc bag. Seal it, Then cut a very, very small hole at the tip. Take the cake out of the freezer and immediately drizzle the chocolate over the cake. Drizzle the chocolate over the mangoes, almost creating a puddle of chocolate around the mangoes. Then drizzle a layer of chocolate over the shell border itself, creating a nice line of chocolate along the top of the shell border. Then finally, drizzle chocolate along the outer edge of the cake so that it drips down the vertical strips of whipped cream frosting as it solidifies. For variation, I'm letting some drip down only halfway, and then squeezing extra chocolate to let some drip down all the way to the base of the cake. Let this finished cake rest in the freezer overnight to let all the layers firm up completely before cutting.
As we mentioned in the beginning, the Mango Bravo cake is meant to be a freezer cake, so leaving it at room temperature or in the fridge is going to make the meringue wafers soggy. So definitely leave it in the freezer until you're ready to cut it and serve it.
And there it is, a mango-y, chocolatey variation of the Sans Rival cake. The Mango Bravo. Ang sarap.
Sarap. Yum. This cake tastes as good as it looks.
I love all the different flavors and textures, from the crispy wafers to the soft mango cream and chocolate mousse.
It's like a little fiesta in your mouth.
Oh. Thank you all for watching. Please let us know in the comment section below if you're planning to make this Mango Bravo cake. Send us pictures of your creations on Facebook and Instagram. The links are below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Cooking with Kurt.
And don't forget to click on the bell so you get notified for when we post new cooking videos.
Maraming salamat!